Hi guys, Bill again. I'd like to introduce you to a local hero. This is John Fagan, and he's a lollipop man. Now, he's in the news because he fearlessly protected his wee vulnerable charges when a getaway car came tearing down the street towards him, but that's not why he's a hero. You see, John takes a small wage off the local council for supervising children crossing the road. Him and his colleagues, male and female, provide a tremendously important service to our community. There are two ways of looking at him though. From a feminist point of view, you'd have to start from patriarchy. And you'd have to think that John must have enjoyed a great deal of privilege in his life to be in a position where he can get paid just for watching kids cross the road. And you'd have to notice that he's white, not a member of some obvious minority group, and the more radical feminists might even cast some doubts about why an adult male would want to spend so much time in the company of minors. Now, the obvious answer, that he's protecting them, doesn't really carry much weight with that kind of horrendous, bigoted worldview. I can offer you an alternative. But it means you're going to have to put down your coffee shop feminism and take off those Hillary Clinton goggles for a wee while. Now, my North American friends, they call it taking a red pill, but I think it's just common sense. You see, John's gender, it's irrelevant. It's his actions that are important. Now, he doesn't earn much money for being out in all weathers. Cold, driving rain or freezing sleet are pretty much what's waiting for him every day this spring. I doubt very much if anyone ever tells him how valued and trusted he is. He just gets on with it in the background, like so many other unsung heroes do. They get ignored by the chattering airheads tripping about how good men have got it the whole time. But you should pay some attention to John. He keeps our children, the most precious things in the world to us, safe when they're at their most vulnerable. And he saves the council money. Without him, they'd have to install and maintain expensive traffic calming measures, which would impact the flow of local commerce 24 hours a day, not just when the kids were around. And the kids are profiting too. They see an older person in a position of trust and authority, and that teaches them a valuable lesson about the wisdom that age can bring. Now, young people who grow up respecting and valuing their elders are going to make much better citizens than young people who are denied that opportunity. And even car drivers win. You can see John's high-vis jacket from hundreds of yards away. Plenty of warning to slow down and start looking out for the troop of carpet commandos that are bound to be jumping out from behind the parked cars any minute now. Look beyond the bias and the prejudice, and you will see a real live hero. We're surrounded by them. The trick is recognising them. You can contrast that with a vid that Goodfella ran last week, showcasing a bunch of total fannies abusing Britain's compensation culture. There's a link below. Now, pride of place on that vid went to a pair of policewomen who've just won a sex discrimination case because their guns were too big for their wee petite hands. Shit, you know, you couldn't make this up. They weren't being asked to lug AWM sniper rifles around, or trying to tame Desert Eagles or Smith & Wesson 500s. Their employer, the Civil Nuclear Constabulary, used Glock 17s. Now, a Glock 17 is a 9mm pistol that's widely used in law enforcement worldwide. Usually the only thing you notice about it is the safety features and the fact that it's got an extremely low weight. I've linked to wee Carly firing her Glock 19 down in the links below, just to show you what one looks like. Now, Carly's has got a shorter barrel, but she's fitted a much longer and much heavier 33 round magazine. The pistol grip though, the part that the policewomen said they couldn't get their hands around, is exactly the same size. Now, I would suggest you've got to be bloody petite not to be able to get your hands around a handgun that an 8-year-old can use. Now, it's not easy to use a pistol, and people of both sexes can struggle to achieve the kind of results that Carly's making it look so easy to achieve. But that's not because their hands are small or because they're the victim of some kind of discrimination. It's because shooting a pistol is hard. The barrel's short, the sights are usually fixed, and the low weight of the weapon makes it easy to change the point of aim without even realising it. In feminist terms, the issue is clear cut. The diddies that failed were women. Therefore, the equipment must have been designed around men. It must have been. Therefore, the women are victims, and they deserve to be compensated for the discrimination they've suffered. But if you take a closer look, the equipment wasn't designed around human beings. It was designed around the bullet. Now, the bullet's dimensions determine the size of the pistol grip. And the bullet that's being used, the 9x19mm Parabellum, is already at the low end of lethality. If you were to use a smaller round, you'd decrease the effectiveness of the handgun to an unacceptable degree. The CNC guard nuclear establishments. They provide a visible and credible deterrent as one of their core values, their main roles. Having tiny little handguns to suit some numpty that cannot or will not put in the range time to master the standard weapon not only puts that individual at risk, it undermines the security of some of the most important and vulnerable real estate in Britain. Now, if they were to change the gun, I mean, good luck convincing a terrorist that a 22 is going to hurt them. Or even better luck trying to stop a suicide bomber with a fucking 22 pistol. It's not going to happen. From a common sense perspective, from a red pill perspective, the issue is equally clear cut. If you fail the firearms test, regardless of your gender, you're unable to do the job. It doesn't matter what the issue is. If you're not physically capable of doing the job, then you really ought to be doing something else. No amount of fantasising about gender roles, about conditioning, or about the evil patriarchy is going to change reality. Now, from my own perspective, I've got a friend who's 6'7" tall. He's a big lad. He couldn't use the Browning 9mm pistols that we were issued with in the early 90s. He had these massive bear paws. He could barely get his finger through the trigger guard. It meant that he couldn't be used as an armed sentry, he couldn't be used as a bodyguard on boarding parties, and he couldn't be used in any other security task that involved the use of handguns. Now, his career suffered as a result. He failed to be selected for advancement, he didn't get promoted the way the rest of us did, and he left the service early. He was still an able seaman when he did, just a few years later. I'm really not convinced that he could claim 35 grand for sexual discrimination because the guns that the girls could use were too small for his hands. But forget guns, forget traffic, forget anything that's likely to kill somebody. Try looking at your daily life without that feminist slant being imposed on it. Just think about mundane, commonplace events, the things that you do every day, but try and see what's actually going on, not what a talking head on television wants you to imagine is going on. How about opening doors? Feminists are always crying about dominance hierarchies, benevolent sexism, rapey, creepy guys trying to sneak into their knickers by cunningly smiling and taking all the effort out of their victims crossing through openings and thresholds. Yeah, really. There is a social interaction taking place when someone holds a door open, but it's got sod all to do with status or mating rituals or any of that pish. The person holding the door is displaying a non-verbal message of utility. They're demonstrating that they're a valuable member of the local community and that they're willing to expend time and effort to assist and be of use to other members of that local community. Now, they gain a reputational reward every time they do it, which encourages that behaviour to be repeated. Now, the person having the door held open for them is also receiving a non-verbal message of affirmation. They're being recognised as a person of sufficient value and status to merit having another member of their local community expending time and effort on assisting them. Both parties are validated by the interaction. Both parties bond and the local community witnesses it, and generally that local community approves. We all want to open doors and we all want to have them open for us. Watch it the next time you see somebody doing it. Yeah, the chances are the person approaching the door will find it very hard not to speed up and go skipping gaily up, making some kind of approving noise, and the person holding the door will usually have this kind of shrugging, "Oh, that's nothing" kind of response. And chances are they'll both move on smiling. There are people who refuse to play that door game or any one of the other hundreds of little games like it that we play all day long, and you know them well. Just think who comes to mind when I say snotty, stuck up, self-important, or even just rude. You know what I'm saying? The way that feminists are constantly trying to erode such little social niceties really ought to be ringing a couple of alarm bells for you. Their worldview will lead inexorably to a less pleasant, a more stressful, and a much grimmer existence. It's no fun being a feminist, whatever they say with their big smiles and their fancy makeup on their videos. Beneath that veneer of intellectual and moral superiority, there's a spoiled, bitter, greedy and ungrateful child's view of reality. It's a view that demands privilege without any responsibility, and it's a view that seeks to put the blame for any and all failings of their worldview squarely onto somebody else's shoulders. But you don't have to share their perspective. Just open your eyes up, make your own mind up. Later, peeps.